Un an après la mort roi Henri Christophe, en 1821, Marie-Louise Christophe était immigrée en Angleterre. Côté nous là, Blackheath, je dis, c'est une zone côté que il était habité. Mais on nous font remonter dans l'histoire et pour nous connaître qui ça qui était passé. Je nous connais en 1804, le pays d'Haïti prend indépendance avec Jean-Jacques Dessalines et dans la bataille qui était faite là, roi Henri Christophe était là et avant même préparation bataille la était faite, il y a une cérémonie bois caïman et dans la cérémonie ça, d'après la petite histoire, Marie-Louise Christophe était présent ensemble avec une série de l'autre femmes potovoyants. Donc, monsieur Sayo te bataille pour nous, pour te casser chaîne l'esclavage et pour te bailler pays à indépendance pour nous être capables de devenir une nation libre et indépendante. Donc, nous profitons tout de l'occasion ça pour nous capables de remercier mesdames Sayo, plus particulièrement Marie-Louise Christophe, et qui était censé potomitan derrière héros indépendance Sayo.
Hi everyone, bonjour, qui j'ennuie. Moi c'est Wilford Marous. I'm Wilford Marous. I'm the president of the Haitian Chamber of Commerce in Great Britain and also the owner of the first Haitian cocktail bar in London, Grill Shack and Tiki bar.
Donc jeudi là nous dans Blackheath à Londres et pour nous capables de présenter à docteur Nicole Willson qui va porter une belle histoire pour nous qui a un rapport avec l'histoire Haïti, qui a un rapport avec l'histoire dans le Nord et qui a un rapport avec une personnalité importante dans l'histoire pays. Dr. Nicole, comment est-ce?
Muy bien, merci. Et vous-même?
Muy bien, merci. So, Dr. Nicole, can you tell us why we are here today?
Yes, well, we are here together on Blackheath because this was a place that Marie-Louise Christophe, first Queen of Haiti, first made her home in England. And I thought it would be really nice if together we could go on a pilgrimage following in her footsteps and learning more about her experience in England during the few years that she lived here. This year marks the bicentenary of the fall of the Kingdom of Haiti, which ended dramatically with the suicide of former Revolutionary General and later King Henri Christophe on the 8th of October 1820. The northern and southern territories, once sovereign and separate, were reunified under one flag and under the leadership of Jean-Pierre Boyer. Christophe's sole surviving sons were assassinated. His wife, Queen Marie-Louise, and his two daughters, the Crown Princesses, Améthyste and Étenaïa, sought refuge in exile. In September 1821, the Christophe women were permitted to travel to England. When they arrived, they were taken in by the notorious abolitionist Thomas Clarkson. Over the autumn and winter months, they stayed with the Clarkson family at their home in Playford Hall in Suffolk. They stayed with the Clarksons until early in 1822, when they took up lodgings at a house in Blackheath. Now, although Blackheath is cited as a location in much of the correspondence that was circulated by Clarkson and others, and is even mentioned in the last will and testament left by Marie-Louise, we know relatively little about the exact address where she lived. And because we don't know the exact location, it's hard to know whether, for example, she lived here in Blackheath Village or somewhere across the larger 100 of Blackheath, which is a much larger area that can now map itself onto the wider borough of Greenwich. Whatever the precise location may have been, we know for certain that the Blackheath of 1822 would have been much more rural and much less developed than the Blackheath of today. This perhaps rendered more acute feelings of isolation for women so very far away from their Haitian homeland. We can be confident, however, that the landmarks that are so characteristic of the Greenwich and Blackheath skyline of today, Blackheath Common, Greenwich Park, John Vanbragh's Old Royal Naval College, Inigo Jones's Queen's House, would have been familiar sights, bringing us that much closer with these women in history. We are currently standing outside of a residence that Marie-Louise once inhabited with her two daughters late in 1822. And we know that they stayed here for at least a brief period thanks to a letter that was sent by Princess Etenaia to Mrs. Clarkson in October of that year. And this letter is really rich and detailed and gives us lots of insights into the kind of afterlife that they all enjoyed in England after leaving Haiti, after the death of their father and husband, and together with new friends and new acquaintances. It's really important for us to bear in mind that for women that had lived all of their lives in the Caribbean, with its temperate climate and temperatures that rarely would have fallen below 80 degrees, the English climate probably would have been quite hostile and unforgiving. The conditions of Blackheath, which sits high on a hill and is right adjacent to the River Thames, leaving it really exposed to the elements, would have been particularly unforgiving. So the seaside surroundings and climate of Hastings probably would have been much more favourable for the Christophe women. From around the middle of the 18th century, popular medical opinion tended to support the view that the English seaside had restorative health benefits. Jane Austen's Sanditon, which was written several years prior to Marie-Louise's and the princess's arrival in the UK, satirises the ongoing craze for sea bathing and for British seaside resorts. Although we don't know an awful lot about the Queen and her daughters, one thing we do know is that Améthyste, her eldest daughter, suffered from a respiratory condition, probably asthma, and that Marie-Louise herself suffered from rheumatism. And it's highly likely that they actually retired to Hastings on medical advice. Now, this is something that we can, of course, only speculate. But one thing that we are sure of from the letter that was written by Etenaia to Mrs. Clarkson is that the environment seemed to greatly improve Marie-Louise's health. And she says in this letter, "La santé de maman s'est grandement améliorée depuis que nous sommes à Hastings, et nous espérons qu'avant peu, elle ne souffrira plus de son rhumatisme, car il fait beaucoup plus doux ici qu'à Blackheath. Ma sœur et moi jouissons toutes deux d'une assez bonne santé." Etenaia's letter also reports that Hastings was at that moment a rival spa town, second only to the Belgian spa of La Fontaine de la Gérontière. Now, whether or not we choose to believe that, what we can know is that these surroundings, and this house in particular, brought them much joy. And we know that they enjoyed numerous house guests and visitors while they were here. Etenaia's letter also tells us that while they were staying here in October of 1822, they were visited by the daughters of the prominent abolitionist Henry Thornton, who'd been staying with them for several weeks. This companionship left a strong and lasting impression on them. So I think that it's safe to say that the experience of being in Hastings and in Exmouth Cottage really did bring the Christophe women much joy and fond memories.
So, Dr. Nicole, while you were doing your presentation about Marie-Louise Christophe, you became emotional. Can you tell us why?
Well, I just imagine that for a woman that had already lost a son prior to the death of her husband and the assassination of her only surviving son and her stepson, that it would have been really hard for her to come and readjust to a life in a strange place, all by herself, without anyone that she really knew that well. Although she had lots of friends and acquaintances, and seemed to make a really strong impression on people wherever she went, wherever she was, whether that was in Playford Hall in Suffolk with the Clarksons and making friends with their neighbours and their acquaintances from the wider abolitionist circle, or whether she was in Pisa and making friends among the church community there. She must have had a really heavy heart, and she must have suffered so much grief. And we know also that she had her own health complaints and things like this. So, you know, she didn't have an easy life. Although she was a woman of means and of privilege, she was born a free woman, let's not forget as well. Unlike Marie, who was born enslaved. You know, this would have been a real challenge for her, and I think for me what's so affecting is knowing that she experienced this grief and loss, and for a long period of time she did that by herself, because both her daughters predeceased her. So Amethyst died in Pisa in 1831, and her youngest daughter, Atenaïa, died in Stresa in 1839. And she lived until 1851. So that was another 10 years that she had, effectively, without any of her close family in her life. We are now stood outside of a house that in the early 19th century was identified as 30 Weymouth Street. This was part of a series of townhouses that was built between 1780 and 1790 as part of the Portland estate development. And it was here that Marie-Louise, together with Amethyst and Atenaïa, made their final home in England. Shortly before leaving England in September 1824, Marie-Louise wrote a letter to Mrs. Clarkson from this address, and this document is one of the only surviving pieces of written testimony that we have by Marie-Louise, save from those few letters and testaments that she left in Haiti. Weymouth Street was likewise cited as an address in Marie-Louise's last will and testament, a transcription of which I recovered in the UK National Archives last year. In the rate books for the parish of St Marylebone for the period, a Madame A. H. Christophe is also listed as the nominated ratepayer. And this document is particularly revealing, as it tells us that the daughters, and most likely Amethyst, who could read English and who was the eldest, were taking care of Marie-Louise's administrative affairs. After they departed their Weymouth Street home, the following advertisement was listed in the London papers, advertising the sale of all the genuine household furniture and effects, together with the furniture and effects removed from St Stephen's, Twickenham, the property of Madame Christophe, leaving England. The furniture, which is the most modern and very best description of manufacture, may be viewed the day previous and morning of sale, when catalogues may be had on the premises. No doubt cosmopolitan Londoners would have queued around the block to make a bid on furniture once owned by the Haitian Queen.
I would just, for a few seconds, put myself into Marie-Louise's position, coming here, a woman of color, coming here to the UK back in 1822. and was wondering, even though London back then might be a bit, I would say not as cosmopolitan as it is today, but probably there are a few, maybe we had Clarkson was abolishing the scavenge time, and then moving from London to Hastings where we went. I was just thinking, how was life for her, being probably the only black woman with two daughters, moving to a place completely different to her, even though she had a nice view, almost like being in a citadel overlooking at the seaside in Haiti. But I was wondering, how was her life? How was it interacting with people back then? Or was it just the servants going out there? Were they staying in a house? They had this beautiful view? Or were people very enthusiastic to have her? Also the fact that she's a royalty, she's the queen after all, above all. And then were people a bit more, I say, enthusiastic to welcome a queen, the Queen of Haiti back then? All of those questions was just, which we don't have much answer to.
Sure.
It's a good question to ask, but I don't think we will have the answer today. I don't know. Maybe
No,
with Dr.
no,
Nicole.
Certainly not. I mean, a lot of these things we can only speculate.
Exactly.
And that's largely due to the fact that, to our knowledge, Marie-Louise didn't really leave many written testimonies. So much of what we see is kind of recounted through the eyes of others, through the letters of others, and through the voices of others. And so she's kind of always at one step away from us. And even they are doing the kind of imagining. They're imagining how it would have been for her, or relaying her experiences and her reactions and her encounters. But certainly I think that you're right in pointing out that for a woman and women of colour coming to London in the 1820s, it would have been a very kind of challenging and sometimes quite hostile environment. We know that there were racist caricatures that were being freely printed and circulated at that time. But likewise, London was becoming quite a cosmopolitan and diverse place. So, you know, on the one hand, she would have been an anomaly. But on the other hand, she would have been like so many others who were coming into this rich and vibrant city at this time and making their mark on that city's story. And that's what makes her so interesting. And it's really important for us to remember that she was part of our culture too, and for us to celebrate the contributions that she made to our culture and to the cultural vibrancy of London in the Georgian period. The Christophe women were all devout Catholics and attended masses regularly when they were in Haiti. We know also that Marie-Louise left generous bequests to the Catholic Church upon her death in Pisa. A passage from the English Bishop Francis Carroll Amherst's memoirs reveals that Marie-Louise and Matisse and Tenaille were all parishioners at the Spanish church in Spanish Place when he was a child. Though the original church was demolished in the middle of the 19th century, the new St James's Church was built just opposite the site of the original.
We know how spiritual Haitians can be. As Christians, I mean, I was Christian myself, especially when you first move to a country that you are not used to. I think this is the perfect place where you can come to find some sort of comfort and to be not in meditation, some sort of meditation as well. Be with yourself, with God, and to pray and ask for guidance, I guess. And I pray for your family and all your beloved ones. So I think by coming here, we would have brought a lot of great comfort to her, a lot of probably make some friends here as well in this lovely neighborhood, part of London. When you are traveling, when you migrate to another country, for sure your family is going to miss you, especially your loved ones, your style of living. I don't know how good her English was back then. I don't know how much an issue it was, if it was an issue at all. But for me, I know it was very difficult, and I had my dictionary in my back pocket all the time. But I don't know if there was a dictionary back then. So it's a lot of questions you must be asking yourself. Trying to put yourself into Marie-Louise is stepping into her footsteps to see where she's been in London, where she used to go to, especially that sort of this beautiful church here.
You know, in the Haitian culture, they would say probably you were overshadowed by Marie-Louise's spirit while, you know, during your presentation. So,
yes.
you know,
Yes.
possibly, yeah.
Yes.
But I'm, you know, as Haitians, you know, we are very, very thankful for all your work, and also on behalf of the Haitian Chamber of Commerce as well, we also thank you for all this, you know, outstanding work and findings, and also we are very, and I'm sure that Marie-Louise, wherever she is today, and she's present with us. We notice, you know, the clouds being cleared now and then to get a bit of sunshine. So, and we are very, we strongly believe that she is here with us, and that we are very happy to commemorate, you know, those moments again, you know, with you.
We couldn't be more grateful and have the pleasure to work on this project with a great historian like Dr. Nicole Willson, an expert in this matter. To be honest, you have to admit your knowledge. I'm learning. I've been learning throughout this project about Marie-Louise, which I didn't know much about. To be honest, this is not our field of expertise, if I may say so. I mean, the Chamber of Commerce, we're not historian. I mean, some of the details you're coming with, it's very exciting throughout this project. That's a shame. It's going to end very soon. Maybe, hopefully, I hope we will collaborate again. Maybe that's the beginning of a new, of our future collaboration between the Chamber of Commerce and Fanm Rebèl.
Absolutely.
Which is, I mean, a number of focus has been on the Haitian women. Some of those heroic women that we don't really talk about that much. We know about Toussaint Louverture, Dessalines, Christophe, but behind every successful man, they say there is a woman. So it's good today we are able to give a bit of space, a bit of time from our personal time to Marie-Louise today, and maybe there is more to come, and I'm sure there will be with time. So thank you very much.
I mean, in line with the point on culture, one of the in one of your talk, there was one that is online. There was one aspect that really caught my attention, and that was the fact that, according to your findings, Marie-Louise, in her heart, she always stayed a Haitian.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
and what can you tell us? You know, what can you tell us more about, you know, this point?
Yeah, that's really important to remember. And in fact, last year I recovered her last will and testament, or rather an English transcription of her last will and testament in the UK National Archives. And that document is really illuminating and gives us really rich insights into the kind of life that she had after leaving Haiti, and the kind of close connections that she forged and the feelings that she had towards people and towards her homeland. And in that document, she makes it very clear that Haiti was always her homeland, that she would have returned home if she could, but she experienced ill health in later life. She had problems with rheumatism, and so she wasn't able to make that journey. But likewise, we know that from her encounter with Robert Inglis in her home in Pisa in 1840, that she always felt that England was a place that received her as home, and that she also would have returned there if it wasn't for the health sake of her daughters, both of whom had health complaints. But we know in particular that Amétis suffered from a respiratory condition, and you know, if we think that pollution is a problem now in England, then, you know, in 18th century industrializing England with its smog would have been really quite bad for someone like Amethyst, someone who had a respiratory condition back then, for somebody who was used to a different climate and different altitudes, that would have been a really difficult adjustment.
I mean, this is an extraordinary account of her story, of Marie-Louise's story. You know, the fact that, you know, despite her husband, you know, was you know, under attack, committed suicide, you know, she had to go into exile in a foreign country with her daughters, and, you know, not knowing what to expect, and living all this time, you know, in a country that, you know, received her and welcomed her, but in her heart she was always, you know, she remains a Haitian, and died. So, and that's, you know, that's extraordinary, and yeah, very interesting.
I think really it speaks to her resilience and fortitude, and the kind of strength of character that she had, the kind of compassion and generosity that she had, and pride. You know, it's important for us to remember that although she was an elite woman who had considerable means according to some accounts and according to her will, she was still a woman of colour who was proud of her Haitian heritage. She was proud of her patrimony, and that was something that she took with her until her death. And I think that that's really important for us to celebrate. When I've spoken about Marie-Louise in other circles, especially with people who work on Haitian revolutionary history, they ask me, well, why do you think Marie-Louise is revolutionary? And of course, maybe she wasn't on the battlefront. Maybe she wasn't engaging in the kind of hard and difficult labour that some other women were participating in. And, you know, those stories are important and valid, but there's a real rich tapestry of women's participation in the revolutionary experience and that period of early Haitian sovereignty. And for me, Marie-Louise's story is above anything else a story of survival and endurance. She was able to persevere, and while other Haitian regimes rose and fell before and after, she stayed strong, she remained resilient, she outlived them all. She was there, and so more than anyone else, she lived by the motto of the Haitian kingdom, Je renais de mes cendres, I am reborn from my ashes.
So, in conclusion, long live the Queen.
Absolutely, vive la Reine.
Yeah, vive la Reine. Donc, dans le documentaire ça que nous fait là pour à la mémoire de Marie-Louise Christophe, nous sommes capables de voir que le voyage Marie-Louise pas seulement fini le livre quitter Haïti pour venir en Angleterre. Il y a les Hastings, il y a les Blackheath, il est venu tout à Londres. Ensuite pour lui aller séjourner en Italie, côté que lui a mouru. Nous remercions Dr. Nicole Willson pour votre travail ça et pour découvrir ça, et nous remercions le caméraman Julien pour votre travail que vous faites pour nous et toute l'équipe qui participe dans le documentaire ça.
So it's been very, very interesting journey, and I'm very proud as a Haitian to probably step back into her shoes to see where she's been around the UK, and also to live it, to, you know, the feeling I had when I went into the house where she was living. It was something exceptional and believable. It's fantastic, and I hope you will enjoy it. Thank you very much.